Hi all. Right, back to Empire's Son. Um, just a word of warning. I don't think this will be that long an episode because my good lady wife is shortly away to her bed, and I need to keep my voice down, which generally means I need to switch off. So this is a late night grand toss episode. So any of you that might have watched them before, there might be some slurring. Because I may have had a beer or two. So, anyway, I've probably not got long anyway, so you'll not have to put up with it too long. So, right, so let's push on and see. Oh, yep. Right, there's a camera away. That's a good start. That was nothing to do with my. Well, maybe it was. Right, like I said, I don't think I've got that long anyway, so we'll get what we can get done. So, continuing example of play. So it says let's pick up the game from where the previous example left off and use Allied Erasmus charts against the Japanese Erasmus charts. To get started, let's have a look at the Allied hand for turn 2. So I'll move the Japanese cards out of the way just now, so we don't get confused. Find somewhere to put them. And I've already got the Allied cards out, so it chooses to pick the Arcadia Conference, which going on the stuff that I've been looking at, it's not always a definite pick. I think it could be argued. I've seen a bit of debate about it. I've not spent lots of time in the forums, but I noticed there was a wee debate about it. One of the videos I was watching. Somebody was trying to say that there was a bit of contradiction between you should definitely play it and whatever. But I liked the argument that the guy had against it. He seemed to know what he was talking about, and it didn't always seem like the best choice to make. Now, if any of you are just watching this for some kind of instruction, then you'll probably not know what I'm going on about. But anyway, let's lay the cards out. They are there. So Arcadia Conference, card number 4. Card number 18, Edwin Booz. 67, Curtis LeMay. They're both resource cards. 50, Tornado Task Force, which is a military event. And finally, 83, China Offensive, which is a political card. So, and then, because the Allies only have 5 cards, they get 2 passes. So, I'll let you see them. Okay, so there's the 5 cards in order, and then just noting the fact that the US have 2 passes. I just assume that if you get less than 7 cards, then you get the other what's left out as passes. Like I say, I'm definitely no expert in the rules. I'm not even close to being half decent at the rules. So, but I want to be. So there's our Arcadia Conference card, and I suppose just while I was rabbiting on there about it, I suppose I should give some of you a look at it just in case. And this is an optional card that you get as the Allies when you're starting 1942 turn 2, I believe. And what it says is this event ends a US inter-service rivalry. And I think this is what makes me think that it's debatable to take as a card. Because if you're taking it for the card, you're taking it for the bonus. If you're taking it in this turn, you're taking it for the bonus, and then you're losing out on this, really, aren't you? I think. Unless you hold on to it, but then your opponent's going to know you've got that card, so they're not going to put you into inter-service rivalry while they know you've got that card. So, and then when you play that card, you're not really benefiting from that top bit because you're still going to be all good with the strategic agreement side of things. But the big part is that it lets you place this ABDA headquarters, which is a joint headquarters, which then lets you act. I think the big part about it is the ABDA headquarters can activate the Dutch units. So just glancing up there, I think the general sort of place to put it is in Tilachap, I think, or maybe even Surabaya. I'm not like I say, I don't know all the clever things in this game, but then it lets you move these Dutch units about. I mean, I don't know, they're reasonably kind of hopeless Dutch units, really. So I mean, yes, they have this guy and they've got a half decent, pretty decent air unit, but the rest is like. But I suppose not only that, it can let you maybe try and get these units out of dodge if you like. You know, maybe move them. The what was that Indian? That's an Indian unit, and what we got in here, an Australian unit. So. And I think the joint headquarters can activate anything there. So that is, I mean, there's a big plus there, and it can also maybe activate this Australian pretty strong infantry. Not so strong, and then could it stretch there? What is it? So its range is 12, maybe. I don't know where you put it. Might be able to grab this, and maybe these are out of range, but. You know what? It could be possible to place them in a hex to maybe get these guys in range if it was important. But anyway, so I think there's arguments either way to it. I don't think it's a sort of like no-brainer that you take that card. The percentage of taking it to not taking it's probably a higher. You know, you probably want to consider it more to take than not, but. I can see cases where you don't want to take it. That's all I'm saying. But I'm no means any expert. It's just I've seen some slight debate about it, and I thought, well, I can see both sides to that argument. So there we go. However, we're having this card because that's what the example play says. So yeah. Okay, so we then move on. Allied play card play. 1. So we begin with the Allied Axis of Determination sheet for the opening phase. So this is all new to us, so I won't you could look at what it says there and just get the results, but what we want to know is we want to make sure that we understand the results, I think. So this is Axis of Determination for the opening phase, which I have right here, handily. Okay, so new bot. You can see it's all blue now rather than the yellow, kind of orangey, pinky, whatever, from the Japanese. So start, nothing in the start box, down to 8, and you'll see up there it says, do the allies have 3 or more cards? Well, we've got 5 cards, so yes. So that's a yes. So we go up to B. Okay, and then so B says, are there in supply Allied HQs in the Philippines? And then it has note number 4, which we'll just jump down and have a look. I'm way down too far there. Yeah, I've got the sort of example underneath there. Note 4 says, if all units have been moved to their destination, evaluate this condition as no. Okay, I'm not quite sure I grasp that one, but it feels like it's not really relevant to what we're doing right now. It's maybe one of the ones you've got to see. I noticed, there was one that, right, sorry to just chuck something else in the fray here. Right, it's not that chart though. Hang on, I'm just jumping back here because I remember looking back and saying, okay, I get that now. Okay, so it's just what I remember it, and I know it's just changing things about. It was task force composition, and it was I. Is it I? Yeah. Which is up here. So once you've activate units for the target, you come down to I, and I says, are there enough activations to fulfill the battle support criteria? And okay, I've not completely resolved the issue with this one, but what I have done is it says, are there enough activations? And I never clicked to that one. So when I was going through and we started with 9 activations for the Japanese, that's what it's meaning. You know, if we need to activate 3 units, right, to satisfy the battle support criteria, do we have 3 activations left? You know, or if we needed to activate 5 units to satisfy that criteria, do we have 5 activations left? And that's all that question's asking. However, the battle support criteria still throws me a little because we were always on air raid and it none, automatic, yes. I can't quite grasp that one yet. Why it says none and then automatic, yes. I mean, ground attacks, it says at least 1 air. So does that mean there's no requirements? Whereas this one says at least 1 air or naval. This one says, well, there's no requirements. And then automatic, yes. I'm not sure I'm getting that bit, because clearly you have to have some air units. Somebody will be getting this. Somebody will know where I'm not grasping that. So please put a post in the comments if you can point me right with that one. But that did sink in, the fact that it says, are there enough activations? And that was half of which was bothering me there, because I wasn't thinking about that at all. But it's pretty straightforward. Do you have enough activations to activate the units that you need? You know, so okay, right, back to normal viewing. Okay, and when I say normal viewing, I've already mentioned this is a late night episode, so just take that as you will. So B was, are there in supply Allied HQs in the Philippines? Well, no, because we cut off the Southwest Pacific HQ, didn't we? And when I say we, I'm just, because we were the Japanese before, and now we're the Allies, so always good. So this is Southwest Pacific, but it's not got any friendly air zone of influences around it, and it does have an enemy air zone of influence around it, which means that it cannot trade supply, it cannot activate units, and yeah, these guys are in trouble. This guy's also in trouble because it's stuck in the air zone of influence. I was about to say this guy's okay, but he is not, because I'm sure there's carrier units in there stopping that guy from doing anything as well. But we'll find out what happens to them. Well, if we carry on playing the game in the next turn, because this only goes to the end of the turn, this example of play. But I'd like to feel that I was keen on moving it on and seeing. I'm not quite sure if I should try and take over the Allies, and that might be a horrible idea. I'm not any general or admiral or capable of dealing with this situation, I don't think. Right, back to the flowchart. Right, okay, great. Shut up. So what was it? So that was a no for B. So it takes you down to C, and C says, are there in supply Allied HQs in Malaya? And again, it has note 4. If all units have been moved to their destination, I evaluate this condition as no. So I guess that one will come through when I'm just not quite understanding what it's meaning there, but it's because I'm probably not having to do what it's saying. And Malaya is the same. well, Wave was the same. We shut off Malaya as well. That was our two priorities. The Malayan HQ has no air zone of influence around it, and it does have an enemy zone of influence around it. So that's a no as well. There are no Allied HQs in Malaya in supply. So that was C. So we're on to D. Right, has the Arcadia event been played? An Arcadia event is highlighted there. What was that? D. Has the Arcadia event been played? Yeah, it's highlighted, but it doesn't really have... Right. Yeah, it doesn't have a separate box for it. So it's not been played yet. So we go no, and then it says establish ABDA command, and it's got note 1. And also you can see that there's a box here, establish ABDA command, but let's just look down at the note. It says play the Arcadia event and place the ABDA HQ in the first available port provided in the list. So that's what we're going to do. We've got that card on our hand. And we're going to prioritise where it goes from this list here. Okay, it does seem that the night's come to a short end. Oh, shame. Oh, maybe you're all prefer hearing me in the morning when I'm all nice and fresh and not all slurry. Yeah, I'm probably going to annoy my wife if I keep on yakking away. So so we'll keep this till tomorrow, and we'll deal with it then. Okay, so sorry for the short episode, but I'll cut it and I'll add something on it, so you'll just see the next bit. You'll hear me more sensible sounding, hopefully. Okay, cheers. Hi all. Right, continuing on with the Erasmus example of play. We were just about to play the Arcadia card, weren't we? And, well, we were going to play that card, just deciding where to put it. So it was establish ABDA command we were at here. And the note says play the Arcadia event and place the ABDA HQ in the first available port provided in the list. So that's the priorities there. Oh, and I think I grasped that note 4 we were getting. Where was that? Yeah, where was that? Oh, Grant, it was in here somewhere. No, hang on. Oh yeah, I was struggling to find it, but it's actually across here in the letters, isn't it? You've got B and C, and it says, are there in-supply Allied HQs in the Philippines, and are there in-supply Allied HQs in Malaya? And it both has that note 4. I wasn't quite sure what that means, but I think it means that if you've got these units out of there, and maybe just HQs left, because it says if all units have been moved to the destination, evaluate this condition as no. Yeah, so if you've moved the units and the HQ's still there, but the HQ is in supply, then you would call a no rather than a yes, I think, if there was no units there. I think that's what that means. Right, going back to what we were meant to be looking at. Right, so the first one is Chilat Jap. Now let's just see the conditions for placing this. Okay, I was just trying to find where I would find the restrictions to place it. And I went to Rule 10, which is reinforcements and amphibious shipping points. It talks about reinforcement placement. It does say reinforcements arrive according to the reinforcement schedule or due to an event card. So that's what we're doing. And I've just actually looked down at the card, and the information's on the card. What do you know? The Allied player receives the ABDA HQ, which is placed in any in-supply port in Java, Borneo, Sumatra or Celebes. If no such port is available, this HQ is removed from play for the remainder of the game. And one other thing I meant to add, that if you do take this card in start turn 2, well, two things I forgot to mention actually. One is, if when you play it for the event, it's removed from play. So, dare say you could take it and use it for the one operation OC point, but yeah, that would probably be that. But if you don't take it, it just gets shuffled into the deck and you would get another random card. So you would draw this at another time. So, you know, it might end up you draw it at a better time when you're in inter-service rivalry and you can need to cancel it. So that's maybe another thing to think about. But I think probably the majority of the time it probably is wanting to be taken for the ABDA HQ. But the thing is, you're putting the ABDA HQ in a place that, you know, it's going to be in risk as well, I think, because you're putting it in an area where the Japanese are wanting to come and isolate it and conquer it at some point too. However, anyway, so it tells you there, and it does say in the reinforcement bit, an HQ arriving as a reinforcement must be placed in a friendly port where it is in supply. And it just says the same there. It's placed in any in-supply port, but it has to be in Java, Borneo, Sumatra or Celebes. And within them, the priorities are Chawat first. So I think that's probably as far as we're getting, because there's no issue, I don't believe, in placing it in Chawat. I don't think. Yeah, it can just easily be placed in there and then trace supply down to the south map edge. Can probably get across to the west map edge as well. So into Chawat it goes, and that's the... Okay, so where it took us about 3 hours to play the first Japanese card, I think. I'm not quite sure if it was that long. Well, in recording length, it probably was. It's only taken us about 5 minutes to play the first ally card. So, yeah, the AOD chart tells us to play Arcadia Conference for event, and consulting the list, the first port, Chawat is eligible, so ABDA is placed there. This puts all the Dutch units in ABDA's range in supply, and the Dutch air now generates an air zone of influence. So we need to keep that in. We need to keep that in mind when we go forward. That they do have that extra air unit that is now in supply and also exerting a zone of influence. Okay, so on to Japanese play card 2, and back to the flowchart. Okay, so on to Axis of Determination again, but just to show you that Axis of Determination is for the opening phase. As the game moves on, you've got an Axis of Determination for the mid-game phase. Sorry, that's a bit glary. And then you've also got one for the end game phase. I think it tells you up there when these kick in. So hang on, what was the medium one? The mid game one. It says use this chart only if Malaya, Dutch East Indies, and the Philippines have surrendered, or it's turn 4 or later. Otherwise, use the opening phase chart. And then for the end game part, it says use this chart only if the Allies control a port within 8 hexes of Tokyo. Otherwise, use the mid-game phase chart. So you can see that their strategy is going to change as the game moves on. Okay, but we're still in the opening phase. So back to the start of this again, and he says our allied HQs in the Philippines, Dutch East Indies, and Malaya out of supply. Well, they were, but now that we've put ABDA in there, it means that they're allied HQs in the Philippines out of supply. So that's going to be a no because we've put the ABDA HQ in there, which is in supply. So no takes us along to C and D. C and D, does Japan have 3 or more cards? I might bring the cards over again. It does. It has 6 cards. So that's a yes. D, does Japan control less than 13 resource hexes? It does as well. So the answer to that is yes. Which takes us to F. And F says, is the logistics evaluation value 20 or more? Well, remember, it got set at 28 at the beginning of the turn, so it stays at 28, so the answer to that is yes, it is greater than 20. Right, where was I? I had to take a break at that point. I was on F because we were on the logistics evaluation value, which was 28, and like I said, we'd done that at the beginning of the turn. So that's a yes. So again, we're looking at aggressive air superiority strategy. And then when we swing across to that box, now neutralise allied HQs. Well, we thought we were done with that one, but however, now that we pop down here, we notice that, we remember that the ABDA HQ was 3 in the priority list. Now we've dealt with the Philippines, the Singapore. We obviously skipped by ABDA because it wasn't in play. So my assumption is that that's what we're going to go for now. So that's going to be our priority target. And then remember, if we've got leftover activations, once we select our card and whatever, we would drop down to Dutch East Indies surrender. And then if that was complete, Malaya surrender, of course. Okay, so ABDA HQ, and it looking for a 0.5, so a half times result again. So it's willing to take a slight chance with that one. That it could roll a quarter, a 0.25 dice roll, and maybe not succeed at neutralising the HQ. Okay, so there's confirmation. A was are allied HQs in the Philippines, Dutch Indies and Malaya out of supply? No, they are not. C plus D is, does Japan have 3 or more cards? It does. And does Japan control less than 13 resource hexes? It does, so yes. And then on to F, is the logistics evaluation value 20 or more? It is 28, so yes. So then it does come to aggressive air superiority strategy. So it's the same strategy as the first Japanese card play because ABDA HQ is now on the board. Following along the objectives, ABDA HQ into Chilat Jap is the first target. So then we go on to check for the card selection. Okay, so going through the card selection part again. A, have any cards been played as offensive? Well, yes, they have been now. So we go down to B. Does the hand currently hold more than 2 cards? It holds 6, so yes. Is this the very first card to be played this game? No. Down to E. Is there an unrestricted military event available to play? And just the fact that's highlighted, it tells you about unrestricted military event. It's a military event card with no activation restrictions, land, air, naval, and no battle hex restrictions. Ignore HQ restrictions. So if you recall at first, we had 2 that were unrestricted and 2 that were restricted. So we played one in unrestricted the last time. So it should be. There's a reminder of the 3 cards, and I've got them laid out in the order that they're meant to be. And if you remember, this one has all battles must be fought in 1 hex island, so that's a restriction. And that one has only Japanese ground units may be activated, so that's a restriction. So this is the one, doesn't have any restrictions. And like it says, you ignore HQ restrictions. So the fact it can only use South or South Seas HQ doesn't matter. It's only if it was asking for just air units or just certain hexes or whatever. Just certain battle hexes or something like that. So Central Force is going to be the card that we play, I believe. Okay, so it just says in reading the strategy notes, the card selected is Central force. Yeah, sorry. No, I've skipped by that, but there was a check. So A, yes, B, yes. Right, I'll not go through all them again. There's no point in reading them all again. I've just looked at them in the flow chart. But the answer it comes to is unrestricted event EC strategy. And that is exactly what we got to. And then we were correct in finding that it was central force is the card that we're going to use. So that's the card that we're going to use. So let's just have a quick look at it. So there we go. Let's say there is a slight restriction with what HQs it can activate. So logistics value is 5. And then this is a nice bonus here. This is about the paratrooper. So it says prior to movement, place a Japanese control marker in a hex that is within extended range of an active Japanese air unit. If 1, the hex is either unoccupied or is occupied solely by a Dutch regiment, and 2, the hex is not within an unneutralised Allied zone of influence. And then you would eliminate the Dutch regiment if you chose to put it in a hex with a Dutch regiment. So it's a pretty cool card, that. It can basically let you take control of a hex and before you even carry out your offensive, which is really good. Now remember, I think it plays things slightly out of turn here again, and the fact that I think it starts moving units, but you're meant to do this before movement. I'll just follow the example play anyway, because it does, when it gets to the point it says, right, this should have happened before you actually moved the units, so it kind of jumps back. It must just be try and make it easier to follow, I think. Okay, so we've now got the card that we want. So now we've got to we've got the card that we want, and we've also got our target, which is Abda HQ and Chilachat. So now we've got to build a force. So task force composition we want. Yeah, well, let's just go back to the flow chart for that. Okay, so task force composition. Is this an air naval attack on the target? Yes, it is. Yeah, because we're trying to take the air unit out that's in that hex so that we can isolate the HQ. Yes, so it's yes. So then we get to air raid, and then we want to activate units for the target. And then notes 3 and 4 tell us that we need to try and activate as much of a force to achieve the damage level criteria for the hex. This time it does give us a number. It was 0.5x, so we want half. We want to be able to roll a half result on the dice and still have enough damage. Whereas that last attacks we're doing, it came down to here, and because there was no value selected, but we do have a value this time. It's 0.5x. So then, yeah, and then the air raid part tells you up the top there that the force we need are air, naval, and carriers. When choosing units, pick enough units for air parity if possible. None of this poetry goes into the air parity part, I don't think, but it is one of the things that you're going to have to start thinking about if the Erasmus is needing to be doing that. It does say if possible, right enough, so you might be in a position where you can still do it, but you cannot get air parity. So, okay, so who are we going to pick? Well, let's just check. Now back to the playthrough. So, task force composition, Chwatjap, AES, air raid, yeah, activate units for the target. Okay, so now it's saying which HQ for this offensive. Central Force card like VADM Condo is limited to South HQ or South Seas HQ. And looking at the objectives and targets coming up. So the fact it's saying targets coming up, it's thinking ahead here, I think. I think you've got to look ahead and say, right, once we've set up enough to take out ABDA, where are we going to go next? So I think it's considering that. So again, maybe something that you've got to look into rather than it telling you exactly. So Japanese Erasmus is going to be looking to continue to strike in Western Java, Sumatra and Malaya after the attack in Cilacap. So that's what it's going to continue to do because it's looked ahead. And that would be, the information for that would be back on the axis of determination. Where are we? Sometimes finding these. Which is, you know, how I'd said, once we have achieved the ABDA result here, that's us finished with neutralised Allied HQs. So then it wants to move on to, wants to move back here for Dutch East Indies surrender, and which is over here. So the targets that we're going to look at, I mean, we've done Balikpapan and Tarakan. So it's Batavia, Cilacap, Surabaya, Bangka, Palembang, Medan. So these are all the targets. And like the playthrough just said, these targets are in the areas it said, which was Java, Sumatra, and Malaya. So yes, is indeed in all the areas. So it's just checking to make sure, because it's wanting to be over at this western edge of the map. Really, that's the area that's wanting to be heading for. So it says let's go with South HQ this time instead of South Seas. The South Seas is a wee bit further out. South is right in amongst the action. It's got one extra range, however, it's got one less efficiency rating, so there is that. And it says let's go with South HQ this time instead of South Seas HQ because the range is too great for the targets coming up, and we've already brought in a bunch of units from the Japanese home islands with the last card play. Okay, makes sense. Central Horse has a logistics value of 5 plus South HQ's efficiency rating of 1 yields a total of 6 activations. 6 activations for this offensive. Focusing on Cilacap for this air raid, the Dutch air is full strength and has a defence of 9. It will take 18 combat factors to eliminate it, and at 0.5x we will need to attack Cilacap with 36 combat factors to satisfy the chart. There are no friendly air bases close enough to attack Cilacap using air units at close range. So it's a job for the Imperial Japanese Navy. Let's activate CV Shukaku in Hong Kong, CA Takayo, maybe, in Tainan, and CA Megami in Cameron. Right, let's have a look at all that. Yeah, so what it's saying is there's no air bases, Japanese air bases. This is not controlled by Japan or this one. Or this one, and these are the nearest ones closer to this, and this one as well. So all these bases have not been taken yet, even Batavia here. So we wouldn't be able to put an air unit within range of Cilacap. So that's why it's saying that we're going to have to look to the Navy and bring in some carrier units and plank them sort of just within range of it in the sea to be able to then make the attack. So, right, and jumping over to the card there briefly. Let's say we've got a logistics value of 5 on the card, and this time we're using the South HQ up here in Saigon. So it's got an efficiency rating of 1, plus the 5 from the card gives us a nice round 6. So that's how many activations we have to go. So we're going to start activating some units. And looking at the paratroopers part here, we want to make the most of that. So although our initial activation here is not activating air units, I'm pretty sure you would want to do that So you would want to activate an air unit to be able to benefit from that. But it does eventually do that further on. So we're looking at CV Shikaku in Hong Kong. Right, let's get it first. Well, hang on. Yeah, no, I'll go and get it first. So Shikaku's up here, isn't he? In Hong Kong. And he's a carrier. So obviously we need carriers. Yeah, well actually let's just see. I want to start saying things there that I don't really, not sure if I've got the rules right here. So let's just follow the playthrough just now, rather than me say something that's going to make me look rather foolish. So CA Takayu and Tainan, right? Where's that? Could that be it? Oh, it is. Look at that. Good. Takayu, right. So this isn't a carrier. So that's activated. And then see Megami and Kamran. Oh, there he is there. See Megami and Kamran. Okay, so that's a 3 activation. So at the moment, so just adjust the dice down to 3. So that's us got our task force activated the 3 units. So steps down to I, which is, are there enough activations to fulfill the battle support criteria? Alright, that's maybe just off there, but and of course this is a bit, I'm not quite sure why I didn't grasp that, but I think it was because it's got this other bit that we're still not sure about. I just can't get my head around that. The air raid none, automatic yes. So hopefully somebody will tell me what it completely means. So do we have enough activations? Well, we had 6, we've just used 3, so yes, we have that. And then Jai, of course, asks, has the damage level for the target been achieved? Well, actually, we just assumed it had, didn't it? We needed, what was it we needed? 36? Yeah, because let's go and have a look. Okay, so here's the Abda. And it's this guy here that's the trouble, obviously, because he's the one that's keeping Abda in supply, because he's got this zone of influence, so we take him out, all is good. Okay, so he's a 2-step unit, so he's got 9 strength on both sides, so we do need to hit him for 18. And because we are, the criteria is to get a 0.5x result at worst, we would need to double that 18 to 36. So, and what we're bringing along to the fight is 14, 26, 38. So we're bringing 38 along. So indeed, Jai does achieve the damage. And so then it says move activated units to the target. So again, we're just going along with it that way, yeah? So, well, actually, let's just jump back to the playthrough to see where they're going to go. Well, obviously, the 2 non-carrier units have to move into Chelajap, and then the carrier Shikaku Naval moves to hex 2118 just to be at air range. A battle hex is created. Okay, let's go and do that. Yeah, and then obviously these 3 units are within range and supply of the South HQ. So they can all be activated. So Megami has, and again the card it's a 3 OC card, so we get 3 times 5 for a naval move, so we get 15 movement points across the sea. So that's clearly within range of that. So Megami's in there, and then Takayo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So yeah, he's just making it. He's in there, and then Shikaku's a wee bit closer anyway, but he doesn't have to, he can just get within 3 range. So where does it put it? It puts him in 2118, which is adjacent, so he comes on down to here, and we've now got that as a battle hex. Okay, so we've moved activated units to the target, and then we go down to K plus L, which is K, can enemy naval or ground units react to this target? Well, we'll need to have a look at that. And then L, is this an EC offensive? Well, again, it is an EC offensive. So, can enemy naval or ground units react to this target? Right, let's have a look. Well, before we didn't have the issue with that, and I don't think this can be. Oh no, we did say that was 25 hexes away from, so that could be activated, couldn't it? And then can that move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12? So that could reach, and it could be activated, I think. And it's in supply still from the South Pacific headquarters and up in, what's the name of the place? I keep saying Pearl Harbor, but it's Oahu. Yeah, so that's how you pronounce it anyway. So I think this is, but however, what's more a concern, if you remember, this is a one-step unit. So again, if we bring that along, yes, it looks like it could react. However, we don't need to care about it because it's one step. We just hit the air unit twice. We don't need to have a hit on this first. However, the Dutch unit, now with the ABDA headquarters being on board, and of course we've got that air unit in there cancelling out these zones of influence at the moment. Obviously, this is the reason the Japanese are trying to take that air unit out. But this Dutch unit is obviously in supply from that ABDA headquarters and can be activated to react. So my guess is we probably want to consider the smothering attack on this. So let's just go back and check the play through and make sure I've got that right. So K plus L, right, it does come to the answer yes. So consider performing a smothering attack. And then it explains Sarabaja can react to this, and the CL Dutch would disrupt Japanese Erasmus plans here. So we'll need to pin this hex. For smothering attacks, remember there is no default damage level, and usually the lower the better. So yeah, so maybe you would want to just put your smallest. Again, this is something you're going to have to decide. It wouldn't necessarily be the smallest. I would look and think, well, maybe if we can take it out, why not bring somebody, if it's feasible to bring something. Now, bear in mind, you would need to bring something that had 16 strength, because it's 8 strength, so. And then again, the dice roll would have to go in your favour for a 1x result. However, what the playthrough decides is, let's have, it says, but let's have Japanese Erasmus at least try to flip the CL Dutch. So it's considering at least bringing 8 strength to try and flip it to its reduced side. So we activate the 5th Air Division in Kuala Lumpur, and we move it to Balikpapan through Saigon and Murray. Okay, and I'm just going to, before we move up to that, because this is the bit, now this is a bit I asked a question about, didn't I? Oh, no, I think it was somebody else who was asking a question. Yeah, it was. It was a question asked way back, and it's when I was browsing looking for an answer for a question I had that I came across it, and I went and pointed the guy to this, but the post was made, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, so whether it's... But I always like to, if I see an answer, somebody's not got an answer, then just in case somebody else is looking for that answer and they come across it, and so answered it hopefully correctly. And it was regarding this playthrough, and it was to do with this part here, because I remember making the comment that was in a blue box with a quick comment. So yeah, before we make this move, let's just read this, because I think it's better to do this. It says a quick comment about this move. Experienced players will note that moving the 5th Air Division off of Kuala Lumpur, removes the AZOI from Singapore, putting Malaya HQ back in supply for reaction. Right, that sounds like not a good thing to be doing. So it says this is normally considered a poor choice, but the board state shows that there are no air naval units in Malaya HQ's range that can change the outcome of the Chalachat air naval raid, and we need the 5th Air Division activated for the paratrooper card bonus, which, by the card text, its effect happens before units are moved. So, and then it says a near future target is Bangka, Palembang, or Medan. So let's use it on Palembang to grab that hex and eliminate the Dutch regiment there. So that activates another unit also, and we only have 2 more activations left now. So let's go and deal with that in the paratroopers bit. Okay, so there's the 5th Air Division unit in Kuala Lumpur. So, and then, rightly so, it does say, prior to movement, place a Japanese control marker in a hex that is within extended range of an active Japanese air unit. So this is a unit we're activating. In fact, I'll just go and do that now. Oops. So we've activated that, and I have knocked the dice down to 2, so we've still got 2 activations. So within 4 hexes of that, we can target, and the hex either is unoccupied or is occupied solely by a Dutch regiment, and 2, the hex is not within an unneutralised Allied zone of influence, and then we would eliminate the Dutch regiment if we chose that. Well, you can see that the choices were, what were they? That's Medan, Palembang, and there was also Bangka, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll notice these are all resource hexes as well. So Bangka's empty, which kind of makes you think, well, maybe just leave that one, because we might be able to just land a unit in there without any grief. So Palembang and Medan, and of course with this bonus, if there's a Dutch regiment in there, we get to eliminate it. So we get 2 birds with 1 stone, if you like. So we get control and eliminate the unit just from the paratroopers, and that's before we've actually moved our air unit to do what it's going to do. So it chooses to pick Palembang to grab that hex and eliminate the Dutch regiment there. So what I will do is grab a control marker, and then Palembang is here. So our paratroopers are dropping in here at Palembang, eliminating that Dutch unit and grabbing Palembang control. And with that, well, it might talk about it later, but I'll just knock our Japanese resources up to 7, because that's in our control right away, and I believe that happens right away. So okay, so now we can move our air unit to where it's going to go. It's coming down here somewhere, isn't it? Yeah, because it's wanting to pin the Dutch unit, isn't it? Let me take the card out the way there again. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, it says activate 5th Air Division in Kuala Lumpur, move it to Balikpapan. So, and we're going through Saigon and Miri. So again, we've got 3 hops of our extended range of 4. So, Saigon is up here, so it needs to go up to come down, I think. So 1, 2, 3 into Saigon, and then Miri, 1, 2, 3, 4 into Miri. You'll see that's a controlled Japanese airbase. And then Balikpapan is it Balikpapan we're going to? Yeah. Where's that? That's one of these, isn't it? Yeah, it's this one. Yeah. So this is a controlled airbase as well. So he hops 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, and ends his move in Balikpapan. Right, and he is declaring an attack on the Dutch CL, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that is at its extended range, and yeah, there was no there was no way to get closer, because when these fight extended range, you half their combat strength, so his combat strength is only going to be 11. But ideally, we'd like to have got to within 2 of it, but this is not a Japanese controlled airbase, so we couldn't get into one of these 2 hexes. If we had been able to get in there, we'd been 2 away and we would have had a full 22 strength. However, that's not the case. Okay, so that's 4 units activated and we've moved them. So let's go and see what's next. So that was us considering the smothering attack. We considered it and we actually done it. So then it comes to M, and M is this the last objective? Well, no it is not. So let's create a new force for the next target. Okay, so we need to find out what the next target is now first, and then create the new force. Okay, so jumping back to here, neutralise allied HQs was our priority list, and that's us now achieved the ABDA one at 0.5x. So we look back up at aggressive air superiority, and we see that the next one in line is Dutch East Indies surrender. So then we come across to that again. Now, first one was Balikpapan and Tarakan. Well, we've taken the 2 hexes now. So the second one is Batavia, and then it's got in brackets capture if no other Japanese ground on Java, and then it's got a wee note 6, and 6 says, what does 6 say? If already controlled, reinforce port with up to 3 Imperial Japanese army steps, I think. Otherwise, ignore. Okay, so let's just jump back there. Where are we, Grant? Where are we? Up a bit, up a bit. So Batavia. So Batavia is a target, but we're only going to capture it if no other Japanese ground units are on Java. And I think that's because you could then just move the ground units across the ground and attack the hex, which is generally better if there's units there, which we'll see in the future. However, this hex is empty. Batavia is empty. So it should be straightforward to be able to just move a unit in there. And the fact that it's empty, I think it means we can do it slightly easier and not have to use an amphibious shipping point. So anyway, that's our target. That's our target for just now. And let's just see. Yeah, it says, so moving on to the DEI surrender objectives, the next target is Batavia. Right, let me just turn the page there. And then we're looking at a task force composition again for Batavia. Right, so let's get the flowchart back for task force composition. Okay, task force composition A. Is this an air naval attack on the target? Well, no, this is not. It's an empty hex, so we need a ground unit to basically take control of that hex. So that's a no. B, is the target a coastal or island hex? It is. Yes. So C, can you capture the target with an overland advance? Well, that would mean that we would have to have a ground unit on Java, and we do not. So no. And then down to D, we have, is the target unoccupied? Well, yes, it is. So then down to G, is the target a potential SR hex? Well, I had to go and look that up. It does have a brief description of abbreviations at the front. SR is a special reaction hex. And I think my answer to that is yes. Now, special reaction, should I try and go into this? What I think about it anyway, or what my belief is. Well, let's go down and have a look at the situation. Okay, so a special reaction move without, I mean, I dare say if you're watching this, you should probably understand these rules. I don't want to be trying to teach you the rules of this game, because I'm not anywhere near that myself. So, okay, so just briefly, I suppose, 7.227 is special reaction move. So it says, if an opposing ground unit ends its offensive move in an unoccupied reaction player controlled city, resource hex, port, or airfield hex that is within range of a reaction HQ and in a reaction aircraft zone of influence, whether neutralized or not, the reaction player may attempt a special reaction on such hexes. And then to make the special reaction, the reaction player must make a successful intelligence die roll. And then if the roll is successful, the hex is declared a battle hex. So this is why it's asking that, because we don't want to move amphibiously and move a unit into there to find out that then something's going to attack it. Because then we would have to bring naval support with us, because if we didn't, then there's a chance that unit would just be repelled back, I think. So that's what special reaction means. Now, remember, this air unit is exerting its zone of influence into Batavia, the Allied air unit. And although we've got it cancelled out, it does say whether neutralised or not. So with us moving into there, it would create a special reaction. So, I mean, it means I think they've got to roll twice. No, I think the special reaction roll actually then creates that as a battle hex, doesn't it? I think they still have to roll again though to actually get to be able to react. So yeah, the chances are lower because you've got 2 dice rolls instead of the normal 1 dice roll but the fact that you then get to create a battle hex there is the big thing. Okay, so that's about as much as I'm going to try and explain it to you. Right, so let's go back and, well, we are answering that question with a yes. Which one was it? Was it G? Is the target a potential SR hex? Special reaction hex. So yes. So then it comes along to H. Can enemy air or carrier units react to this target? Well, my guess there is going to be yes as well. So then we're going to look at invasion with air naval support. And then up to activate the units for the target. And then just jumping across here, invasion with air naval support, as we need to create a force with air, naval, ground unit, amphibious assault, and carriers. So that's what we need to achieve. So then we would then go and move back to the task force composition. But let's just see that we've got all that right. And where are we? Yeah, it's right up the top there, isn't it? So task force composition, Batavia. So I'm not going to go through all that again. Let's just see if we got to the right thing. It did say invasion with naval support, activate units for the target. And it's actually then jumped on to I and J to say that, yes, we've got the activations available. Yes, we've created the combat strength, the battle criteria combat strength. And then it's moving activated units to the target. So that's what's going to happen. We'll have a little look just now, but I'll just finish this off because then it just has a summary of what's all happening. So it says, this is a good place to save an ASP and use organic naval transport. Miri has the right stack of units for this. Let's activate 2nd SN, BD, I'm not sure what all that stands for, and C Nachi for the attack on Batavia. No battle hex is created, but the allies will get a special reaction for the hex. And then that is Erasmus' last 2 activations. So that's the last 2 activations. So let's go and find these guys. And also just briefly look at, well, we've talked about the special reaction, but the fact that they could react. And it basically comes down, oh no, that's not the case, is it? Because this unit's pinned. This unit's pinned into a combat by itself, so it's not that can react into here. Okay, so because the question was, can enemy air or carrier units react to this? Oh right, well it's not a carrier unit anyway. Can enemy air or carrier units? So can enemy air units react to this? Right, I'm not 100% sure why we got a yes to that. Then we did get a yes. Was it H? Can enemy air? Oh no, I've got a no for that. Sorry. I just I think I was thinking of this, but there's two reasons this can't react. One, it's not a carrier, and two, it's actually been pinned into combat as well. And the only other air unit we've got is pinned into this combat. So no, they cannot actually react. So I've got the wrong thing there, haven't I? So it's not invasion with air naval support, it's actually invasion with naval support. And the force that we need for that is naval ground unit, amphibious assault, and carriers. So it's not interested in bringing air units along because it doesn't need them. Okay, good. Right. And the reason we're saving an ASP here is organic naval transport. And basically, that is, hang on. Okay, so 8.46 is Japanese organic naval unit transport capability, and it tells you all about it there. I'll try and give a brief. It just says the Japanese have 5 brigade-sized land units, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, SN and SS. These units can conduct amphibious assault by either using 1 amphibious shipping point per unit, so they can do it the same and using amphibious shipping points. And here's the one here that we're going to use, and it's 2 SN. I think that's the right one, isn't it? 2SN BDE it's got. Brigade, maybe? 2SN Brigade? Possibly, yeah. So, like I say, it can either use 1 amphibious shipping point, or they can conduct amphibious assault by beginning the offensive stacked with and moving their entire move with a CA, CL, or APD naval unit at no cost amphibious shipping points. Each naval unit of these types at either reduced or full strength can move one of these 5 brigade-sized units if a naval unit is eliminated during an offensive. So this is what we had to check for. The ground unit it was transporting is also eliminated and does not land. If the naval unit loses a step, there's no effect on the transported unit. So we needed to make sure that this wasn't going to be reacted to, or there's a chance you're going to lose both. So this is Nachi and this brigade, the 2nd SN brigade. So, and they are going to attack Batavia. So, because they're all moving together and Batavia is empty, it is an Allied controlled port, town, whatever. So we do need to still attack it. However, because we're doing it that way and using the escort along with the unit by itself and it's empty, we don't need to use, it doesn't cost us an amphibious shipping point. So these are really good for the Japanese to avoid using all them up. So they want to try and do that whenever they can. But I think it has to be an empty hex, doesn't it? Or did I not? Well, I would have just read that, did you not? Did it say it had to be empty? Or maybe not. Maybe it just, as long as it goes with... they can conduct amphibious assault by beginning the offensive stacked with and moving their entire move. Yeah, no, it doesn't. It wouldn't have to be an empty hex, so it could be moving into a controlled hex and still be able to do it that way. That looks like my understanding anyway. Okay, so that's that done. And then, I think this video's getting a bit too long because I've got a wee bit I've got to add on to the front of this, so I think I'm going to have to stop here, and that'll be that. I would like to have got right through to the next Allied card play, but I guess I better just stop where I stop, rather than make it too long. So there's in summary it says Task Force A, which is CV Shikaku, Takoa, Megami attacks to Atjap, and the 5th Air Division attacks Sorabaja to pin the Dutch CL. And then Task Force B, Nachi escorts the 2nd SS Brigade, 2nd SN, Brigade attacks Batavia. And then flipping to the Allied reaction chart, let's step through it and find out what the Allies can do. Could I just run through this? What are we at? Probably would be better to get through. There's not an awful lot to go until it moves on to the next Allied card. Let me just see if there's things that I need to explain though. Okay, let's just give this a go. See if we can finish this off. So we're looking at Allied reaction. So maybe not looked at this or yeah. So start. So A, are there any special reaction situations? Well, actually there is, isn't there? So let's just say there's a yes. So we roll for each special reaction. Right, hang on. Okay, so the first roll would be the special reaction. And because we're using this card for an EC, this is the card that we're playing. This is the intelligence rolls that they need. If we were playing it for an OC, we would need a 5 or less. If we were playing it for an EC, we would need a 7 or less. Now, they do get a -2 to the die roll if the unit has crossed into where do I find that? Reaction player. No. I'm just going to quickly get through this because the result that they get in the playthrough is they roll a 9 and they fail it. If they rolled a 9, oh, you know what it is? I think a 9's an automatic failure. I think that's what it is, isn't it? It just says the special reaction roll failed. It says, my thinking is they rolled a 9, which would get a -2 down to a 7, and you get the -2 because Japanese units moved into an enemy zone of influence, even if it's what's the word? Even if it's cancelled out or not, I forget the word. And I think they get a -2 for that. I could be wrong. So that would take it down to 7, and this is the number it would need or less to be able to get a result from the special reaction. However, a 9 I think is always a failure, and a natural 9, so it doesn't matter about taking it down to a 7. So I think that's what would fail in it. So okay, let's go back to the flowchart. So we rolled for each special reaction, and then it comes down to B. We rolled and failed, but anyway. Are there battle hexes? Yes, there are. So we move on to C. Are there battle hexes in range of an in-supply HQ? Well, this time there's not, because if you remember, we've... Oh no, hang on. Are there battle hexes in range of an in-supply HQ? Right, well, surely there are, because this is still an in-supply HQ, isn't it? Before we get everything going here. And yeah, I'm looking at the playthrough, and it comes to the conclusion that no, there are no battle hexes in range of an in-supply HQ. Why is that? Oh, hang on, I'm looking at the wrong thing. That's why. Okay. Sorry. So, yeah, let's just go back here. I was looking at the wrong part of the playthrough there. You'll just see above. I was looking at this one up here at the top, but it's this one here that we're checking for, the reaction. So A is, are there any special reactions? Yeah, and then it rolled a 9, so that's a fail. So it goes on to B. B is, are there other battle hexes? Yes, there are. C is, are there battle hexes in range of an in-supply HQ? So the answer is yes. Okay. So then we come, oops, I'm not showing you anything there, am I? Zoom out a little bit, Grant. And you can maybe see the information up the top there as well. Just. Right, so C was a yes, there is battle hexes in range of an in-supply HQ. So now we've got D or E or F. Well, this one only needs one of these to be a yes answer, clearly. So D, is an intelligence reaction card available? So you need to look at the allied hand, and there is no reaction cards in the allied hand. So that is going to be a no. That one's going to be a no, so that was D. E, is a counter-offensive reaction card available? That's no as well, because it doesn't have any reaction cards. And then F, do you have an ambush card, and can you meet the ambush criteria? Well, no, it doesn't have an ambush card either. So the answer to this is all no. D or F, no. So then it comes down here, and then it says, if possible, roll for intelligence. So now we're going to do the exact same roll as I said, which is the EC7. And this time it rolls a 3, as you can see up there. So this is a pass. So pass comes down to G, and G wants to look at, can you meet the reaction force criteria for at least one battle hex? Yeah, I think I maybe should have left this there. There's a bit more to this. So can we meet the reaction force criteria? So let's have a look. Here's reaction force criteria here. Can we activate the minimum number of units such that a combined air-naval strength is 1 times or more than opposing air-naval strength? The number of friendly air units equals the number of enemy air units. Roll 1d10 on a result. 0 to 4 ground strength can eliminate opposing ground units on a 2 times. 5 to 9 no criteria. Okay. There's a lot in that. Should we just, I want to get finished here, so they come to the answer on the playthrough. It says no, and yeah, if you look at 1 there, can we activate units that a combined air naval strength is 1 times or more than the opposing air naval strength? Well, it is going to be no. The only thing that we can react with is this naval unit, I believe. There's nothing else. There's no anything else that can come and help out here. And even the ground amphibious assault here, we could possibly have pushed the unit. The other thing is, you can react with an amphibious assault of your own, can't you? Not quite sure how that works. I think that's getting a bit too deep. My guess is that this is the only unit to consider, and there's no way we've got enough strength to be able to go, well, actually, no, this can't react, can it? Because it's pinned in combat. So there's nothing. There's nothing there. And as for me saying that you could react by moving a unit with amphibious assault, I think we'll look into that one at a later date. So let's just assume that the playthrough has got this right, and it does seem to be, that there's not enough of a reaction force to meet the criteria. Okay, and then jumping down, we were on, that was G, so that is a no. So it comes down to H and I. H and I, is there a submarine attack card available? No, we don't have any of them in our hand. Is there at least one enemy unit that meets the submarine attack card's specific conditions? Well, we don't have a card. So that's a no, and then it just comes down to finish off with execute post-battle movement if applicable. Well, it's not going to be applicable to us. Yeah. So we're going to do nothing, I think. So yeah, so there's the all the flowchart possibilities, and we do come to execute post-battle movement. So answer is nothing. The SR roll failed, so the Batavia landing succeeds, but the intel roll was made, so there is no surprise. Okay, so it is still worth making that roll, because although we had surprise attack on the card, it doesn't say it on the card, but it automatically, if it doesn't say on the card, it defaults to surprise attack. However, they did get the intelligence roll, and were able to change that to intercept. So there is no surprise. Despite that, there is nothing in range of Abda or Malaya HQ to help with the defence of either battle hex. And then, so rolling out all the attacks, here's Japan, US. So air naval attack and Chawat Jap. The 2 zeros there are the modifiers that I think would be applying. So there's no modifiers, and this is the dice roll. So the Japanese rolled a 0 and the Allies rolled a 3. So, and this is the attack in Chawat Jap. So let's see if we can work out what the result of that is going to be. So here's the air naval combat results table. So the Japanese rolled a 0, so they've got the worst result. So they've got a 0.25 quarter result, and the Allies rolled a 3, so they've got a half result. And modifiers, well, we said there was none. It showed none on the thing. There's the modifiers that we would have got. If they hadn't rolled the intel, we would still be at surprise attack, so we would have got a +3 to that die roll. These are for further on, and it wasn't a US ambush. So there was no modifiers. So Japanese got a quarter result. So I think that means that they're going to fail here. Because this is attack on Chawat Jap. So let's just spread this out and see what we've got. And there's the air unit. So we've got 14, 26, 38. So, and then 38 quartered is 10, isn't it? Yeah, it's 10. So they're only bringing 10 strength to the party. So, and this is 9. So they will flip this. However, they've only got 1 point left to do now, and they needed another 9. So, in actual fact, I shouldn't do that just now because there's no surprise attack here. So it's all done simultaneously with the combat. So let's just look. So we're doing 10 points of damage to the Dutch, and the Dutch unit is doing 7 points of damage because it got a half result, didn't it? So it's doing 4 points of damage, which doesn't do any harm to either 3 of these. So we will get to flip the Dutch unit. However, we won't be eliminating it, and that was the risk that Erasmus took and ended up getting the 0.25 result rather than the 0.5 result that it had brought along enough damage to do. So that was unfortunate. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, which is that air naval attack in Sarabaja. And again, there's no modifiers. This time the Japanese roll a 5 and the Allies roll a 3. So let's just looking at that chart again. Japanese roll a 5, which is a 0.5, a half result. Allies rolled a 3, it's the same. So they're both getting halved. And this was the attack on Sarabaja on the Dutch unit. So this is getting half to 11, dealing 11 points of damage to that. Is going to flip it. Its 3 is getting half to 2, which doesn't do anything to a 10 strength. So the Dutch unit is indeed going to get flipped. Oops. Eventually. To its reduced side. And no damage done to the air unit. Right, and there's just confirmation, so hopefully we've got it right. So Chawat Jap, 0.25 for the Japanese, 0.5 for the Allies. Japanese only inflict 9 combat factors worth of damage to reduce the Dutch air. No damage inflicted by the Allies. A very fortunate result for the Dutch. Yeah, so he stayed alive. Just got flipped. And then Sarabaja, 0.5 result for both. The Japanese don't inflict any damage. and the seal Dutch can't hit. Oh, yeah, I've got that wrong, haven't I? Sorry, my bad. That Dutch unit is not going to be flipped, and that is because they're at extended range. So their initial combat rating is 11, so that gets halved to 6, which is not enough to flip the 8. So there you go. This is well, I'm reading it afterwards. We're making mistakes. So no damage done by either side. So then quickly just to push this on, because it's getting far too long. Post-battle movement. Yes, air post-battle movement strategy. So let's put the Malaya HQ back out of supply and put the 5th Air Division back into Kuala Lumpur. So that makes sense. That it made a note of that earlier, that that it wasn't the best move for moving this down here, putting the Malaya headquarters back in supply by moving that air unit out. So he's going to post-battle move back to Kuala Lumpur, and now the situation's put back to how it was, and that HQ is now still out of supply. So no harm done. And then we look about the air units, the naval units. So there's no more air to post-battle move. There is naval. So naval post-battle move strategy. And it says, among the options in the notes, let's put C Magami in Murray, C Takao in Hong Kong, and put CV Shikaku with CA Nachi in Batavia. This offensive added 1 resource hex for the Japanese, which I already added, for a total of 7. I've got that up to 7. So back to the Allied axis of determination chart for the next play. So that's everything. Let's just get the naval post-battle moves. Yeah, so post-battle move. Yeah. So the naval strategy was South Seas HQ if it contains no naval units. Well, it does. And then number 2 is port that contains only ground units, and then nearest port. So it puts the Magami in Murray. Magami must be under here then, is it? So it goes post-battle move back to Murray, which is here, isn't it? Yeah. And then, whether that's the closest port, probably is. Obviously, there's no any ports that have just got ground units in it within range. And then the Takao in Hong Kong. So this one goes way back up to Hong Kong. Well, actually, that was one that had a ground unit in it. So that was the second priority, wasn't it? Port that contains only ground units. So, and then lastly, the Shikaku and the Nachi in Batavia. So Batavia is the place that we just took. So the Nachi and the Shikaku are just going to go in there, which is indeed the nearest port. So there's obviously no other ports that have got just ground units in them. And yeah, should put that way, shouldn't I? Okay. So that's that, right? I'm going to get away here now because this did stretch on a bit, and I think I've got there's another 20-minute video to attach to the beginning now, so it's going to be an hour and a half or something, which is kind of, don't like them going over that, and prefer them round about the hour. So that's the card play finished. So the next time we come back, we'll look at the next Allied action, Allied card play number 2. Okay, cheers for now.